Hello again, everyone. Mary here at the Reiki Place. Continuing our series today on the deep dive into the chakras. Today, we're talking about the solar plexus. The solar plexus is your center of personal power. It's where your inner strength and confidence comes from, shines through. It's where you stand firm in your beliefs, in your strength. It's where you take control of situations and don't allow situations to take control of you. It's also where you learn to flow with the flow of the universe when things are beyond your control. The solar plexus is also closely tied to the digestive system, as we're going to see. So I hope you enjoy this video, and off we go. The solar plexus. The Sanskrit word is Manipura. Its meaning is lustrous gem. That can be interpreted to mean your inner sun, your inner light. This reminds us of the saying that Jesus, when he was talking to the masses, is recorded in Matthew, where he says, "You are the light of the world." We are all carrying inner light. The trick here is to help us reveal it. Exploring that Bible verse a little further, it says, "Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven." So you see, you are meant to shine your light. The solar plexus also carries our worry. Our anger is carried in the solar plexus. But you see, when we get past that, when we can get past the worry and the anger and get into more of a peaceful state, then the solar plexus becomes our strength and our light. The solar plexus ties in with the pancreas. The pancreas is the endocrine gland that is known for producing insulin. It also produces glucagon, which is the antidote to insulin. And we're going to explore that a little bit further. And so the solar plexus is associated with all the organs of the digestive system. And you can see them all there: the liver, the spleen, the pancreas, the gallbladder, the stomach, the intestines, and the rectum. Digestive issues are almost always related to the health of this chakra, as we're going to see. So I want you to take a look at the placement of the organs here. Notice that the liver and the gallbladder and the duodenum are all on the right, yang side energy. The spleen and the stomach are on the left, yin energy. So yang is what you present, and yin is what you take in. Yang is the creative principle. Yin is the sensitive, nurturing principle, the intuitive principle. And notice how much room the intestines takes up. Quite a bit of room in the abdominal cavity. The intestines is where you do a lot of the processing of your food and the absorption of the food. And absorption means extracting the vitamins and minerals from the food. And notice that word, because our gut, our stomach, our solar plexus is also where we do a lot of processing of the information that comes in, especially information that comes from other people and that as it relates to us. So, for example, being bullied, coerced, convinced, persuaded against our will to do stuff, that's very much solar plexus energy. Here are the concepts then for the solar plexus: personal power, your free will, being in control or being out of control or being controlling. Being controlling is actually the manifestation of not feeling in control, where you seek to control everything around you because you're not feeling like you're in your power. For example, the weather. We can't control the weather. So when the weather doesn't cooperate with your plans, the best thing there is to flow. Maybe the weather is inviting you to be indoors today. Maybe there is something you need to do inside the house or in another building rather than being outside. So when weather comes along and disrupts your plans to be outside, going with the flow means finding a way to find peace, being indoors instead of outdoors, that kind of feeling. There are certain things we can control. When somebody, for example, is pressuring us into doing something we don't want to do, we have full control over that. And if we go along and do that thing that they are pressuring us to do, when all we have to do is say, no, I don't want to do that, then that's on us. And this is the kind of thing that will lead to deep digestive issues. So it's both the solar plexus energy is both the power to be in an individual, to stand in our uniqueness, to understand our unique skills and talents and celebrate those, while at the same time seeking community with those around us. This is why we feel so compelled to go along with people when they pressure us, because we do have a deep sense of needing to belong to community. And that means compromising, and that means doing things that everybody in that community does. So it's a fine balance, you see, between standing your own ground and going along with what everybody else wants, and deciding when is the best time to do each of those different things. The Serenity Prayer, I think, captures the energy in the solar plexus very well. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That's exactly what we're talking about. Here we see the silver cord that's talked about when we leave body, when we go on our astral travels. We talk about the silver cord that connects the etheric body back to the physical body so that the etheric body can't get lost from the physical body. That connects in through this chakra too, the solar plexus. Over the next few slides, I'm going to talk about the organs of the body and how these function, the digestive organs specifically. And as we look at the language of what these organs do, I want you to be able to relate it to emotional language as well. So words like assimilate, absorb, control, protect. These are all language of the digestive system and language of the solar plexus chakra. And so first we have the liver, which in Chinese medicine is called the commanding general of the body because the liver does so much. It cannot do it alone. It acts in cooperation with the other organs of the body. But one of its primary jobs is to filter toxins. Just like your mind needs to filter information, what is good, what is bad, and that becomes your gut feeling. The liver filters the bad stuff from the blood in order to protect the intestines, because the food, your food, what you take in, is going to move from the stomach down into the intestines and be processed there. The small intestine's job is to absorb the nutrients from the food, and the large intestine's job is to form the remainder into waste. So the liver is a critical part of this process. The food doesn't actually pass through the liver, but the blood does, you see. And so it's the liver's job to filter the blood. It also controls the sugar levels. It's the liver that decides what gets used as energy, what gets stored as fat, and where it gets stored as fat. In doing this, the liver needs to cooperate with other organs, the pancreas, the kidneys, the gallbladder. The liver is also responsible for storing fat-soluble vitamins. So vitamins can be fat-soluble and non-fat-soluble. The non-fat soluble ones like the B complex and vitamin C, these you need to take every day because they're not stored in the body. Whereas vitamins A, K, D, and E, these are stored in the liver. And when you run out, then you need to take more in. But they can actually remain in storage for anywhere from a month to a year, depending on what books you read and what school of thought you belong to. The liver also creates cholesterol. Now, cholesterol is fundamental to the body. It's a hormone, and it's fundamental to making other hormones. So it is the basis of other hormones. It's also used extensively in the brain. Cholesterol is extremely important for brain health. And I hate the way that modern health or modern medicine makes cholesterol out to be bad, because cholesterol in and of itself in a healthy body is not bad, but absolutely fundamental to good health. It's also responsible for making the digestive enzymes that are used to process your food. And it becomes the foundation of bile. Bile is used to digest fat, but bile is actually made from cholesterol. The liver also regulates fat in the body. So as I said before, it decides what gets stored as fat, what gets used as energy. And the liver protects against infection. So these Kupffer cells are liver-bound white blood cells. White blood cells are the warrior cells. They're the cells that overcome viruses and bacteria and help the body fight infections of all kind. The liver is also one of the only organs of the body that regenerates itself. I don't know of any other part of the body that regenerates itself, with the exception perhaps of your fingertips. If you slice off a very tiny amount of your fingertip will grow back, just like your liver will grow back if it gets damaged. But if the damage is too severe, so if you cut off a lot of your finger, it's not going to grow back. And the same with the liver. If it gets badly damaged, it's going to have a lot of difficulty regenerating. And so while it seems fairly sturdy because it has that capability, it's also rather delicate because you can see that it has a lot of tasks in the body. The liver has a lot of responsibility in the digestive system, let's say it that way. It also helps the body maintain pH. So your blood, has to be at an alkaline pH of approximately 7.4, which is just very slightly, so 7 being neutral, just very slightly in the alkaline range. If your blood becomes acidic, you die. It's that simple. So the liver is part of the chain of responsibility that makes sure that the blood's pH is always alkaline. Most of us eat a very acidifying diet. The modern diet, processed food and highly refined foods like pasta and pizza that use highly refined flour, these are all very acidifying. Protein is also very acidifying to the body. So when your blood becomes too acidic, the body has to rob itself of an alkaline substance in order to create that alkaline balance in the blood. And the only alkaline substance in the body is calcium. So your body actually robs the bones of calcium when the body is too acidic in order to keep the pH balance. And this is actually at the root of osteoporosis and other bone diseases, because the bone will eventually degenerate if it's being continuously robbed of calcium in order to balance the blood. So this is one reason why a healthy diet is very important, a diet that is rich in vegetables and fruits, because vegetables and fruits are alkalinizing. In fact, vegetables and fruits are the only alkalinizing food. Almost everything else is acidifying. And the most acidifying foods are, as I said, proteins and processed foods. Anything processed is basically acidifying. This is why I don't like powdered proteins. Protein is acidifying already. So the liver's function in traditional Chinese medicine is to create smooth flow, specifically of ki. Ki is life force, ki is energy, and blood, of course, which flows throughout your body. So it creates a smooth flow of your digestion as well as your emotional state. So your emotional state is very tied in with solar plexus health. And liver depression means lack of free flow. It says here, this is Robert Keller, and its specific cause is unfulfilled desires. So actually, a very big cause of liver depression is anger, frustration, particularly frustration when you feel thwarted in your attempts to be autonomous, to do what you want to do. When you feel bullied and pressured, whether that's peer pressure or parental pressure, academic pressure, whatever it is, medical pressure from the medical establishment, to convince you to do things that you feel in your gut is not in your best interest. This will block the liver key. I love these little yellow dandelions that look just like little yellow suns because the solar plexus is your inner sun. It resonates to the color yellow. And this is a wonderful example of the doctrine of signatures, where things that look like other things in nature have harmony and resonance, because dandelions are phenomenally good for the liver, especially dandelion root. This is a very well used herb in Chinese herbal medicine, and it's very good for liver health and kidney health, but particularly liver health. And so you can buy dandelion greens in health food stores, and you can also buy dandelion root and make a tea or other drinks or other things from those. Something that's very bad for the liver, that is no surprise, is alcohol. The liver filters the alcohol from the blood and then stores it as fat. Alcohol has no nutritional value, obviously. It has a lot of our alcoholic drinks have sugar content. Alcohol itself is not high in sugar, but when we add things to it to make it tasty, like beer has wheat and hops and all those other things, then it becomes very sugary, and that obviously has no nutrition, so it all gets stored as fat. Too much fat, too much liver fat impairs the function of the liver. And of course, once the liver has stored as much as it wants to around itself, it stores it in the rest of the body, and so alcohol makes us fat. Malt liquor, which is beer, is higher on the glycemic index than sugar. It's about the highest thing on the glycemic index. Glycemic index is a measure of how much sugar is in something. Beer has more sugar than anything else that we consume, for the most part. And so beer is the very most likely number one thing to make you fat and eventually lead to diabetes. Other things are all the processed white flour that we eat, pizza, pasta, bread, all of that stuff that's made from processed white flour is also higher on the glycemic index actually than sugar. So those things are very, very bad for you. They're bad for your liver and they're bad for your health overall. And so the pancreas does a couple of important things. One thing it does is create enzymes which are then released into the digestive tract. The pancreas releases them into the duodenum, which is the entry to the small intestine, between the small intestine and the stomach. And the enzymes are necessary to break down food and release the nutrients in the food. And then the other job of the pancreas is to produce the hormones, insulin and glucagon. Insulin's job is to make sure that blood sugar doesn't get too high, and glucagon's job is to make sure that blood sugar doesn't get too low. So it actually takes both of these hormones working in cooperation with the body to regulate blood sugar. It's not just insulin. And I'm going to talk you through how this works a little bit. And as I do that, I want you to see what a fine dance it is, what a delicate balance it is between the insulin and the glucagon. Because remember, there is a direct connection energetically between the solar plexus chakra and the endocrine gland that relates to the solar plexus, and it is the pancreas. And so it is a very delicate balance here. When your solar plexus is out of balance, that will have an effect on this very delicate dance here between the insulin and the glucagon. So bear with me as I'm going to talk you through this concept of insulin resistance. This is based on the work of Dr. Jason Fung. He's got a wonderful book, The Obesity Code. He also has another book, The Diabetes Code. And I took this particular material from the Obesity Code, but it's a very good expose, if you want, of how this fine balance is carried out inside the body. So let's take a look at step one here. Your body runs on glucose. It actually runs on glycogen, which is a form of glucose. And that is the fuel that the cells of the body needs. So the cells, each cell needs fuel to do its function. And that fuel comes from the food you eat, obviously. So the digestive engine, the saliva in your mouth, your stomach and your intestines, this is the engine. The engine's job is to produce glucose from your food. So when there is food in your system, when you've just eaten, there is food in your system, so there is sugar in the blood. The pancreas then reduces insulin because that sugar can't get from the blood into the cells of the body unless insulin opens the cell door. So insulin is like a little key that opens the cell door to allow the sugar into the cell. If you eat more than the body needs, the pancreas keeps producing insulin because it keeps seeing sugar in the blood. So if you keep eating, you keep creating sugar in the blood, your pancreas is going to keep producing insulin because what the pancreas knows is that when there's sugar in the blood, I need insulin to allow the glucose into the cells. But the cells can only use so much glucose. So the signal gets sent back to the liver, and the liver then makes the command decision, oh, we don't need any more fuel right now, so we'll store this sugar as fat. So step 4, if you don't eat for a while, the cells will eventually run out of fuel, and this is a state of low blood sugar. And this can actually be very healthy if you are a healthy individual. If you're a diabetic, this is not a good condition because your insulin, you still have, if you're using insulin, you see there's insulin being produced. So you have to eat more carbohydrates to absorb that insulin, to use up that insulin. But if you're not a diabetic and you're in a healthy body state, then this is a great place to be because then glucagon gets produced in the pancreas and it starts to convert stored fat into glucose. This is actually the process of ketosis, and this is the basis of the keto diet. In the keto diet, people refrain from eating carbohydrates so that the body stays in a low blood sugar state, so that fat is continuously converted into fuel for the cells. And this is how you burn fat on the keto diet. This is also the basis of intermittent fasting, and why intermittent fasting can be very healthy. So intermittent fasting is when you fast for a period of somewhere between 8 and 16 hours. Some people will fast for 24 hours. And it helps your body move into this state of burning a little fat and keeping that blood sugar low. Now, once the glucagon converts the stored fat into fuel for the body, then insulin is produced again so that the insulin can allow the glucose into the cells. Again, if you're diabetic, your body's continuously having an inflow of insulin, depending on how you receive that insulin, whether it's injected or whether you have like one of those little pumps that's continuously pumping insulin in. So you have to be very careful if you're on insulin. But I'm talking primarily to those people that are not diabetic, to those people that are trying to control their weight, perhaps through ketosis. And I will just say that the keto diet in general will burn fat. You can see why in steps 1 to 4. But be wary if you are on a keto diet, don't go too high on the protein. Because remember, we talked about protein being very acidifying to the body. Fruits and vegetables will help to keep that pH balance in the blood in an alkaline state. And if you're very hungry, you should be eating things like beans and also foods that are naturally high in fat, like nuts and avocados, because those will stop you being hungry without creating a condition that is too high in protein. If you're just filling up on meat, you would eventually get yourself into lots of other health issues, and we're not going to talk about those here. But if you overeat, moving down to step 5, if you eat more than the body needs, then more and more glucose is produced. And so insulin is continuously produced because remember, the pancreas produces insulin when it sees sugar in the blood. So eventually this leads to a condition of kind of overload and malfunction, where the cells of the body stop opening in response to the insulin. The insulin keeps knocking, turning its key in the lock, and the cells are kind of pushing the door shut and saying, no, you can't come in, we're full in here, we're not going to play this game with you anymore. And so what happens eventually is the insulin actually stops working and it doesn't open the cell door. So the glucose can't get into the cell. So the glucose then, step 6, builds up in the blood because it can't get into the cells, and this is the state of high blood sugar. And it's bad because the cells need fuel, but now the fuel can't get in because the cells have become insulin resistant. Now you're in difficulty. But the cells keep calling for more insulin because they need fuel, and you find yourself in a vicious cycle. This is what Jason Fung calls insulin resistance. It's where there's too much sugar in the blood, there's too much insulin floating around, and the cells have stopped responding because they've been overwhelmed with both glucose and insulin. What does the liver do when it sees a lot of sugar in the blood that the cells can't use? It stores it as fat. So you become fatter and fatter. And eventually this condition of obesity may turn into diabetes. So diabetes is an extension of obesity in many cases. So moving on, the spleen. The spleen is part of the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is designed to remove waste products from the body. And so it recycles and filters the blood, removing those dead blood cells. And this makes it a key player in the immune system. The spleen and the lymph are vital to your immune system because you have to keep the house clean. The spleen also helps to produce white blood cells. Remember, we said that white blood cells are the warriors of the blood system. They're the ones that go out and find and fight the viruses and the infections. So we'll see on the next slide how the stomach and the spleen work in cooperation. One has upwards key and one has downwards key. We'll look at that. But I just want to mention here that exercise is very key when it comes to the health of the spleen and the immune system. Because you think about the blood, which takes nutrients to every cell of the body through the arteries and veins. That blood is kept circulating from the heart. The heart pumps. Well, the lymphatic system doesn't have a pump to pump the lymph around the body and help to remove it. And so exercise creates motion in the body. So in order to be healthy, your body has to move. If you have a very sedentary lifestyle, you probably are not processing toxic waste from the lymph as efficiently as somebody who is moving. Now, you don't have to be always on the go, and you don't have to do things that are very strenuous. You just have to move from time to time. So if you do have a sedentary job, getting up and taking a walk at lunchtime, for example, and another walk in the evening after you get home is very healthy. Or anything you do physically. So whether it's housework or woodwork or some other kind of hobby, anything you do that moves the body is very healthy for the body, even if it's not in the category of vigorous exercise. And then let's take a look here at what I was talking about. The stomach key pushes down. So everything moves through the digestive system through a process of what is called peristalsis, which is like those snake-like little writhy movements that move the food through the system. Moves it from the stomach down into the intestines and through that whole network of the intestines. Whereas the spleen now pushes up, because the spleen is pushing nutrients into the blood system up to the heart and the lungs. The heart and the lungs are, the core of the digestive, the heart and the lungs are the core of the circulatory system's engine. So your heart pumps the blood around the body, helps the blood return back to the lungs, where it gets oxygenated, and then the oxygenated blood gets pumped around again. So your arteries are taking blood around the body and your veins are bringing blood back into the lungs for reoxygenation, while the spleen is also cooperating in this process, pushing nutrients up to the heart and the lungs into the blood. Whereas the stomach, you see, its job is to move everything down. So the food comes in through your mouth and out through your rectum and has to move down through the digestive system in order for the digestive system to do its job. So you've got this upwards key and this downwards key. And so you can see again, we already looked at the delicate balance in the pancreas. And here is another delicate balance between the spleen and the stomach, that when the solar plexus energy is out of balance, this balance is also disrupted. It's all about flow with the solar plexus. It's all about flow with the digestive system, with the liver. So here we see the gallbladder. The gallbladder is that little tiny green sac under the liver at the end of the pancreas. And its job is to the liver produces the bile and the gallbladder stores it. And the bile is then passed into the small intestine and it's used to absorb fats and fat-soluble vitamins. But it also, like most of the other organs, has a dual purpose, and its other purpose is to carry the toxins produced by the liver out through the body by moving them into the intestines. So the bile passes from the liver through the gallbladder into the intestinal system. And then the intestines can decide what's waste and what's not waste. Now the bile also eliminates broken down cholesterol. So everything has its purpose and then, slowly decays and needs to be removed, including cholesterol. In fact, the bile is made from cholesterol, and the liver produces cholesterol continuously. So we are trained to believe that cholesterol is bad for the body. Actually, cholesterol is fundamental for the body. And most of the cholesterol your body uses is not taken from your food, but is produced by the liver. It's the liver's job to continuously produce cholesterol. This is why statins can have such devastating side effects, because they block the production of cholesterol in the liver. But cholesterol is the foundation of most other hormones, including progesterone, estrogen, and testosterone. So, for example, men who take statins to control cholesterol are indirectly blocking the production of testosterone, and this can lead to erectile dysfunction. Erectile dysfunction is very closely tied, in many cases, I'm not saying every case, to the use of statin drugs. And women, of course, needing progesterone and estrogen have other issues associated with lack of cholesterol. And many people have mental issues associated with statin drugs. They have memory loss. and various other brain fog and various other conditions. And this is because cholesterol is used by the brain. So blocking the liver's production of cholesterol is not a healthy approach to controlling cholesterol. A better approach is, again, through diet. You become the product of what you eat. Gallstones. Gallstones are hardened deposits of bile which block the flow of bile. I want you to think about the language that we use around the gallbladder. He had the gall. He had the gall to do this to me, or he had the gall to do that to me. And I want you to think about anger and the anger and frustration that blocks you. Anger can be healthy. It can be a catalyst that propels you into action. But if you hold on to anger, or if you suppress anger and push it down, it can do the opposite. It can lead to complete stagnation. And it will be the end result of suppressed anger can be these hardened deposits of bile, because they stagnate, the bile stops flowing. And think back to the 4 humors of the human temperament that were talked about in the time of Hippocrates, and even pre-Hippocrates, that were phlegmatic, sanguine, choleric, and melancholic. So choleric is associated with anger, and that's associated with the liver. The blocks in your gallbladder key are created by stagnation, resentment, and festering anger, and that's why gallstones hurt so much. Okay, moving on to the stomach. The job of the stomach is to primarily be the holding place for food that comes in through the mouth, down the throat, into the stomach. And of course, it does some churning and breaks the food down and starts processing some of the food. It does play a role in digestion, and then it passes the food down into the intestine. So food is the primary source of nourishment and nutrition for the body. And sometimes our mind-body system complex confuses nurturing the body with nurturing the soul. So food is very elemental to the nurtured soul. It's the first thing we do when we are born is suckle at the mother's breast. We eat. And whenever we cry as babies, the first thing the mother tries is to feed us. And so we have this association of feeding with being nurtured by our mother, being cared for. And so we get mixed up in our psyche. We get mixed up between using food for nourishment and using food for nurturing. So we have this idea of eating soul food. Soul food is comforting. Unfortunately, what most people consider soul food is very unhealthy for the body and consists of a lot of the very bad kinds of fat and a lot of the very bad kinds of processed foods, such as pancakes, bread, things of that nature. Macaroni and cheese, very rich in refined and processed foods, very acidifying to the body. So if you are somebody who needs food to self-nurture, consider substituting other things for that food. Taking a bath, buying yourself a present, getting lost in a stupid movie or a comedy show, other ways of nurturing your spirit which don't include food. And continuing this theme of looking at the language, consider some of the stomach language, the stomach key, the stomach energy. That sits heavy on my stomach. I can't stomach that guy. I don't have the stomach for that. It felt like a kick in the guts. Or I made a gut decision. Or I don't have the guts to do that. Butterflies in the stomach. Or going with the gut feeling. I don't know, it's just in my gut. All of these expressions are tying in your power, your control, to the language of eating, to the digestive system. I can't emphasize enough that digestive issues, the emotional state behind most digestive issues are anger and upset, frustration, not being in control, being coerced, being bullied, being pushed around, being controlled by narcissists, mother-in-law energy. It sticks in my craw. Boss energy. Sometimes it's a nagging husband or a nagging wife, continuously putting the pressure on you, continuously coercing you, continuously trying to get you to be somebody that you are not. The narcissistic energy, the narcissist. So we've talked about the intestines. The small intestine's job is to extract the nutrients. This is where most of the extraction of the good things in your food and the separation of that which is not needed by the body, which then passes into the large intestine. For the health of the intestine, it's very important to hydrate because a lot of water is used in the colon. The colon is the large intestine, by the way. So the colon forms what's left into stool, and that passes out of your body via the rectum. In the intestine, there are up to 500 species of bacteria. The bacteria in your intestine is actually very individualized. And you can make the association again here between your individuality, your search, your seeking with this chakra energy in the solar plexus to individuate, to be your individual self, to stand your ground, to resist coercion, resist persuasion, resist being assimilated into the mass thinking of everybody else, being able to assert your independence. And the bacteria in your gut is very individual. If you eat, for instance, a very high sugar diet, you're going to have candida or yeast or unhealthy gut bacteria because the bacteria forms in response to your diet. So every individual will have different gut bacteria, different mix. And the problem with probiotics, which a lot of people take probiotics and prebiotics to deal with gut issues, and those are okay as a short-term solution. But what it's worth considering is that prebiotics and probiotics are somebody else's choice or somebody else's opinion of what your gut bacteria needs to look like without knowing the exact nature of your preferred diet. So over the long term, it can actually do you in instead of helping you. In the short term, it's going to help you because it takes about a year for the gut to establish its healthy bacteria to change in response to your diet. So if you change your diet today from an unhealthy diet to a healthy diet, it will take about a year for your bacteria to catch up with you. So the best answer is always to eat a healthy diet, one that's rich in fruits and vegetables, low in protein, and has a fair amount of the healthy kinds of fats that you get from naturally occurring foods like avocados, nuts and seeds, some of the healthy oils, and so on. And then we'll talk about the rectum just briefly. The rectum is really just the exit point. All the heavy lifting, all the hard work has gone on in the other organs, and especially in the intestines, the small and large intestine. And we think of the energies of diarrhea and constipation. Diarrhea is where your body needs to get rid of toxins fast. Sometimes it's been overwhelmed by toxins by eating a food that has gone bad or has been infected. And sometimes it is in response to energy work. So you can get diarrhea as the result, for example, of doing some energy work, whether it's acupuncture, chiropractic, Reiki, biofield tuning, all of those can create the need for the body to expel toxins quickly. Because when you do energy work, it doesn't just affect the energy field, it also affects the cells of the body. The energy being the blueprint for what happens in the physical body. So it's not a good idea if you have diarrhea, it's not a good idea to suppress it, because then you're causing those toxins to remain in the intestines and with the risk of being reabsorbed into the body. So if you do have diarrhea, as uncomfortable and inconvenient as it is, you should thank your body for recognizing and releasing the toxins that can harm it. And then constipation is the opposite of that. Constipation is when the flow gets blocked. So it can be poor diet, of course, not enough fiber, not enough water in the diet. It can also be blocked in response to your emotional state. So thinking of the phrase anally retentive, for example, is quite literally being anally retentive. If you can't let go of something, if you're holding on to something, onto some unjustified anger or even justified anger, but you just can't seem to get past it, or if somebody has said something to you and you just can't seem to get over it, these kinds of emotions can block the release of the waste that's in the body. So literally your body becomes retentive. So I say here, when the mind lets go, the body lets go as well. I'm not sure I did the best job here on this slide, but what I'm trying to show is the correlation between what goes on in the digestive system where we absorb and process food and what goes on in the solar plexus system where we absorb and process the things that happen to us from the outside world, including and even especially the things that people say to us. So let's take a look here. The digestive system is where we take in the nutrition our physical body needs to perform and work well. And the solar plexus system is where we take in the information our emotional body needs to perform and work well. The digestive system processes the food, it extracts the good parts, it identifies and removes the unwanted parts and the toxic parts. The solar plexus processes the information, the things people say to us, the things that happen to us, the external events we can't control. It extracts the good parts, it identifies and removes the unwanted parts and the toxic parts. The body processes reflect the balance in the body. When the balances are disturbed, it cannot function well and toxins build up and make us sick. Similarly, the solar plexus system processes and reflects the balance in the emotional body. When the balances are disturbed, it cannot function well. Toxic feelings build up and make us anxious and depressed. And of course, the one influences the other. So the digestive system influences the solar plexus system, and the solar plexus system influences the digestive system. We saw in the previous slides how that balance is very important in the digestive system. So the primary source of digestive issues is caused both by worry, when you worry needlessly, or even if you worry, with good cause about something. Worrying in and of itself never solves a problem. It only causes problems. If you're worried about something, you have to either address the problem or let go of the worry some other way, because it's not your problem. It's somebody else's problem. If it's your problem, you take steps to fix it. If it's somebody else's problem, you have to allow them the honor of addressing their own problem. So the other thing is feelings of being coerced, bullied, controlled by another human being persuaded, succumbing to peer pressure. In other words, not standing up for yourself. And relationships can be especially toxic. Relationships with parents, co-workers, siblings, children, or any other relatives, or anybody else. Very dangerous for your digestive health. What can you do about it? You stand your ground. You can do that tactfully, gently, but firmly, and not allow yourself to be bullied and pushed around, not allow yourself to take on things you don't want to take on. That includes beliefs as well as chores or tasks, and learning to say no or yes, as it may be. to stand up to other people and to stand firm in your own opinion and firm in what you wish to do with your life. So here's just a list of some of the different kinds of diseases: irritable bowel syndrome, diverticulitis, colon cancer, acid reflux, inflammatory bowel disease, heartburn. You can read the rest of the list here, and it's not an exhaustive list either. Many other conditions can result, but these are some of the primary ones that most people are familiar with. So our thoughts and feelings and emotional state isn't the only thing, of course, that affects our digestive system. Food is also very important, as we've been saying all along. Genetically modified foods are especially bad. These are wheat, corn, and soy, because they are modified to be insect resistant. They are modified that if insects land on them, they kill those insects. So the insecticide comes from the inside out, as it were. It's in the genes of the food. This is what genetic modification is all about. And so when you eat those foods, they are destroying your gut health just the same as they are designed to destroy the insects that feed off them. Again, foods that are too high in sugar, those produce, as we said, candida and yeast infections, and foods that, and also obesity, and foods that contain chemicals, preservatives, emulsifiers, food coloring, natural flavors, or artificially added vitamins and minerals. Natural flavors are often monosodium glutamate, which is derived from genetically modified wheat. If they were using natural flavors that were truly benign, they'd just list what they were. So you have to, as you read food labels, you need to think, why are they saying that? Why are they saying natural flavors? Why aren't they saying strawberry flavor or, lemon flavor or natural butter flavor? Why are they saying natural flavors and disguising it like that? It's because they're up to no good. Likewise with artificially added vitamins and minerals. These are not naturally occurring vitamins and minerals. The reason why they add vitamins back to your flour, why they add the B vitamins in, is because wheat is naturally very high in B vitamins. It's one of the best sources of B vitamins. But when they get done beating it to death in a factory, it's got none of those left. They're all depleted. And this is why they take artificially created vitamins and add them back in. They're not adding back in the same natural vitamins that were beaten out. They're adding in artificial vitamins and minerals. And that is very acidifying to the body. They're actually seen as toxins to the body, and the body strives to get rid of them as quickly as possible. And then anytime you see on a food label a justification. So for example, if they've put in parentheses to preserve color, or if they've put in parentheses to prevent separation, if they're justifying it, it's bad, but they're trying to talk you into believing that it's necessary for the food. Oh, it's to prevent it separating. What, you can't just shake it up before you open it? You can't just shake it back up. You have to have these, artificial ingredients in there that are not good for your body. So anyway, being mindful of what you eat, learning to read labels, and in fact, the vast majority of what you eat, the bulk of what you eat, should not have a label on it. If it comes from nature, it doesn't have a label on it. If it comes from a factory, it has a label on it. Factory food is processed food, and processed food is highly acidic, and it's not good for you. It's not good for your solar plexus health, and it's not good for your digestive health. All right, we're done with the digestive part of the presentation. Moving on now to some of the other aspects of solar plexus energy. The archetypes here are the servant and the warrior. Some people call this the spiritual warrior. The servant, remember, solar plexus about control, about standing up for yourself. The servant is, I'm submissive and easily influenced by the opinions of others. I wish to get more acknowledgement for what I do. Sometimes when we do things to please others, it's because we want to be acknowledged. When we learn to acknowledge ourselves, when we learn to appreciate ourselves, and we don't need affirmation from outside or confirmation from outside that we are worthy, when we know our own worth, then we don't have to do what others want us to do. because we are confident in ourselves. We are confident in our own opinions. We are confident that we are on our own right life path. So if you find yourself getting treated like a doormat, I call this the mother-in-law energy. You know, the narcissistic mother-in-law who wants to control everything you do and everything her son does, or her daughter does, in case you're a man, because that mother-in-law energy, I think, ripples both ways to both sexes. Very difficult energy sometimes, and not all mother-in-laws are like that, but it's a very common problem. Let's admit it. And our own mother too can sometimes, if there were not narcissistic mothers and narcissistic mother-in-laws, I probably wouldn't have very much business, because a lot of my business of people who are suffering from anxiety and depression, a lot of it comes from there. So the opposite of that, the positive aspect of the solar plexus, I know what I want. I know why I want that, and I know how to get it. And I'm not afraid to have opinions that are different from other people, and I don't subject myself to the will of others. Narcissists don't have influence over me. I have too much respect for myself. I own my power, and I know my value. How do you learn to know your value? You know your value because you are here. You are a sovereign human being with as much birthright as every other sovereign human being that is on the planet, and that makes you worthy. So have respect for that. You are here. And despite everything you might have gone through, you are still here. And that's meaningful in itself. Affirmations for the solar plexus. I know my power and I know my value. I am the hero in my own life journey. We are each the hero in our own life journey. Our journey is about us. Yes, it is about me. I am about me. And you are about you. You are the hero in your life journey. And your children, your grown children, your adult parents, your boss, your friend, they are all the hero in their own life journey, and you do not have to fix their problems. Your responsibility is your own life. So I accept responsibility for the decisions I make in my life. I'm worthy of being treated with respect. I am worthy. Only I know what is best for me. And I have the power. I have the power to remove myself from situations that don't serve me. I have the power to say no to things I don't want in my life. And if you say them with respect but firmness, gently but firmly, if other people get upset by that, that's their problem. That's not your problem. If you're standing your ground and doing what you need to do in your life, and other people are upset with that, that is their problem. It's not your problem. You don't have to fix that for them. This is where most of our digestive angst comes from. Why we get nauseous, why our stomach gets in knots, why we have irritable bowel syndrome, why we have diverticulitis. So some fun crystals for the solar plexus. The citrine is the classic one. Citrine is yellow. It brings light and joy. It's quartz. So it resonates to the electric body, to the light body. It's known for bringing happiness and abundance, and sometimes is associated with a healthy flow of money as well. And then all of the yellow and amber stones. I particularly love amber because amber is not a crystal per se. Amber is a resin that comes from plants. And plants go through a process of photosynthesis, so they capture the sunlight. So amber has captured the sunlight, and I love that about amber, especially for the solar plexus, the inner sun. And then lemon topaz, tiger's eye, and golden topaz, sunstone is another one. I'm sure you can think of a lot more. Yellow, golden, golden labradorite is another one. I'm sure you can think of lots more. And then essential oils, the real flowery ones, and also the real citrusy ones. So things like jasmine and ylang ylang, but then grapefruit, lime, lemon, because these citrus fruits, and in fact, all of those fruits that need a very hot sun, the ones that don't wither in the hot sun, citrus fruits love the heat. They love a tropical climate. And so they absorb lots and lots of sunlight into there. Makes them very good for you. And then the musical note E in the regular scale, in the musical scale, and in the solfeggio scale, the 528. There is, that's the mi, the ut, re, mi is the solfeggio scale. So that's the mi and mi. And there's lots and lots of music on YouTube or wherever you get your music from at 528 hertz. If you are feeling anxious, try playing some 528 hertz binaural beats or just relaxation music and see what that does for you. The animals are the power animals. The tiger is not only yellow but powerful. It stands in its power. People don't mess with the tiger. People don't mess with a tiger. Also a lion you could associate with this energy too, although I like to associate lion with heart energy as well. And then the horse. Think about the domesticated horse. The horse is very, very gentle until it's threatened. When it's threatened, it rises up, rises into its power. And a horse in its power you don't want to mess with. But most of the time you see, as long as you're behaving around the horse will behave around you. And it's very docile and very loving. And then, of course, the color yellow. Foods that feed the solar plexus. The big, bold spices, spicy flavors, bold colors. Look at that beautiful array of spices. These spices are fearless. They are standing in their power. They are presenting their bold and spicy flavors to the world, unashamedly. And then the citrus fruits, that is a picture of chicken curry. Right here, curry, because of the flavors in the curry. It could be any kind of curry, it doesn't have to be chicken. And fiber, the oatmeal is fiber, and some nuts in here, and some bananas, which is a yellow fruit. So banana oatmeal, very, very healthy for the gut health and for the solar plexus energy. And again, the pineapple, again, a tropical fruit, loves the sun, grows with lots of sunshine, very, very juicy, those kinds of fruits. And then activities that support the solar plexus, anything that brings you joy, anything that exhilarates you. Running is very exhilarating. Doing your craft, whether it's jewelry or woodworking or clockmaking or painting or any other kind of craft that brings you joy, brings you into your zen, where the time passes quickly because you're completely absorbed in what you're doing. Those are very healthy for the solar plexus. Journaling, writing, getting it out. I wish I would have put singing in the shower on here. Singing in the shower is very, very good. Releasing, things that release, let out the anger. Don't suppress the anger. It's not wrong to have anger, by the way. It's human. So anger is not bad. Suppressed anger is unhealthy for the body. And anger taken out on the wrong person or for the wrong reason is unhealthy as well. But to be angry is not unhealthy as long as it's processed in a healthy way. So one way to process anger is to release it. And you can do that by, I tell people sometimes when you go home from a session with me, you know, as we talk about what made them angry in their life and all the stuff they've dealt with, as you go home, sit in your car and just swear out loud, God damn it, that was not fun. That was not a fun time in my life. God damn it, I deserve to feel bad about that. I'm not surprised I feel bad about that. Let the anger out. Give it space within you and allow it to release. Don't push it down. Don't tell yourself it's bad to be angry. Don't try and suppress it, but give it a healthy outlet. And then, of course, meditation is also really good for this chakra because it brings you back to your center. It brings you back to balance. It brings you back to inner peace. And that includes all forms of meditation, even active forms of meditation like walking in nature, again, running, or anything that brings you back into your center. Playing chess, things of that nature, strategy games. And then we're going to take a quick look at some yellow auras and then we'll wrap up. So I have the rare opportunity with myself that I don't have with other people of being able to take a picture of my own aura, a snapshot, when I'm in different frames of mind. So normally on a good day when nothing much is going on and I'm just hanging out and being me, my aura is primarily blue, which is a very calm color. It's a good color of a good communicator. It's a color of somebody who doesn't let most things interrupt their peace. But here you can see on the left here, this is me before a big test. When I was testing to become a member of the ICRT and get on the licensing program, I had to do a 4-hour test. It took about 4 or 5 hours on Reiki, and I had to memorize a lot of information and learn a lot of information and then be able to remember all that. It was a closed book test. And so you can see my solar plexus is really enlarged, whereas most of the other chakras are not bad balanced. They're quite well balanced, but the solar plexus is throwing out this yellow into the aura that's dominating the aura. This is, in this particular case, this is anxiety. The next one on the right is, I said it right here, making the decision to put my dog down. This is not my current dog, for anybody who knows Sammy. This is my previous dog. So this picture is a few years old now. But again, you can see that the chakras are completely out of balance. Very enlarged crown, very enlarged third eye, heart chakras pulsating, and very enlarged solar plexus. So anxious and in prayer is what this reflects. Crown, connecting in spiritually, looking for guidance, asking my guides to help me make this decision to put my dog down. You can see this white, pinkish white spirit energy, a sign of being in prayer, being connected, or being psychically tuned in. And the yellow has completely overtaken the aura. There's some gold here, but it's primarily yellow coming from the anxiety in the solar plexus. And just for contrast, I put in a little one here of, this is my aura when I'm giving Reiki. So again, you can see the white spiritual energy connected in a slightly bigger crown chakra because I'm channeling energy. And the pink and the turquoise blue here and the purples, these are high chakra colors. The light blue is the compassionate high heart. I'm always in compassionate heart when I'm giving Reiki to someone. And the purple and the pink reflect the third eye and the crown, being in intuition, being tuned into the other person's energy and channeling energy. So I just threw that in to show you that my energy is not always yellow. It's yellow when I'm stressed. Now, here's 2 other people. These are 2 different people. And you can see on the left-hand side here, a tiny bit big in the sacral chakra, but beautiful energy. They have golden yellow above the head. So yellow is the color of joy. It's intellectual. It's curious. It's fun. Yellow auras like to have fun. There's always a spectrum, you see. So worry is on one end of the spectrum, and having fun, being the life of the party, the opposite of worry, is on the other end of the spectrum. So yellow auras are very fun people. People want to be around natural yellow auras, those that are not yellow from worry, but those that are yellow because they're cheerful, because they're happy. They can sometimes be people pleasers, and they can sometimes also be warriors, the yellow auras. And then this green here is new learning, being brought forward here, presented on the right side of the aura. They are starting to push into a period of spiritual growth, a little bit of an awakening there, moving from the third chakra, the yellow, into the fourth chakra, the heart center. So ascending up through the chakras is a sign of spiritual growth. So seeing the golden yellow, the yellow, and the light green, very beautiful personality here. Just a slight tendency to sweat the small stuff. And then on the other side, this person here has got this beautiful green energy, heart center, generous, kind personality. Again, joyful, happy spirit energy here in the head, and yellow in the aura, and golden orange. This person is quite independent because of this. They're presenting this orange streak. They also are a fun person to be around. They're growing a little bit, again, moving from the solar plexus energy into the heart energy, moving up from third into fourth chakra. But they're a very beautiful personality. This is the kind of person you want as a friend, somebody who is warm and generous and fun and just cheerful and nice to be around. This energy here on the left, primarily yellow on the outside of the aura. They're in a spiritual place because they have this white. So they are either psychic or they're in a spiritual place. They are definitely a warrior, and they have the enlarged root as well. So something has just taken place to knock this person off balance. They're worrying about something and they're trying to tune in. They might be in a prayerful mood because of this white energy and the enlarged crown and the enlarged throat chakra. They're worrying about somebody else, most likely here. And then on the other side, this person is, you can see, very similar to the first one I showed you of me. Let me go back to that here, where the yellow is coming from the solar plexus. The yellow here is also coming from the solar plexus. And so they have this beautiful golden orange here presenting. So again, they are quite a happy person, probably most of the time, except they've got something on their mind right now. You can see also the crown chakra is a little big, indicating that they have something on their mind. This person may have different colored auras when they are, just like mine was yellow that one day. Normally it's blue. Theirs might be a different color. It might be a combination of orange and yellow, or a combination of orange, green, and yellow, or it might be a completely different color. There's no way to really know unless I would get to take the image of this person's aura on a completely different day when they're in a different mood, when that solar plexus energy has settled down. So in general then, yellow auras, very happy, cheerful people, sometimes genuinely cheerful, sometimes putting on a bit of a face, can be a bit of a warrior, intellectual person, very curious, very intellectually adventurous, but sometimes can be a bit of a warrior. But in general, very cheerful, happy people, the kind of people you want to be around, the kind of people you want for your friends, happy, friendly, funny people. Great senses of humor, yellow auras. And here then are my references. All right, I hope that made sense to you. If you did enjoy this video, as usual, please do like and share. And if you would like to be notified of upcoming videos, please subscribe. The next one will be the heart chakra. And so thank you for watching, and stay well.